Standing on the edge of the churning Red Sea, Moses faced an impossible choice. The Egyptian army was closing in behind him. With unwavering faith, Moses raised his staff toward the heavens. The wind howled, and the waters miraculously parted. This created a path of dry land through the deep. Moses guided his trembling people through the towering walls of water. He led them away from slavery, towards freedom. The walls of water stood tall and imposing. The people looked up in awe and fear. Moses, with his staff held high, urged them forward. The path was narrow, but it was dry and safe. On the other side, hope began to glimmer. They marched through the night, guided by faith and the light of the moon. The children were tired, but their spirits were high. The elders whispered prayers of gratitude. Moses watched over them, his heart filled with determination. As the sun began to rise, they reached the other side. They looked back and saw the Egyptian army approaching. With a final wave of his staff, Moses released the waters. The Red Sea crashed down upon the pursuing army. The Egyptians were swallowed by the waves. The people of Moses were safe. They rejoiced and sang songs of praise. Their journey to freedom had begun. They danced on the shore, celebrating their newfound liberty. The children laughed and played in the sand. The elders shared stories of hope and resilience. Moses stood among them, his face beaming with pride. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but he also knew that they were not alone. God was with them, guiding them every step of the way. Their courage marked the beginning of a journey. It was a journey toward the promised land and true liberty. The desert stretched before them, vast and unforgiving, but their hearts were filled with hope and determination. They knew that they could overcome any obstacle. They had already witnessed a miracle. They had crossed the Red Sea on dry land. They had escaped the clutches of slavery. They were free, and they would never forget it. Moses led them onward, his staff pointing towards the horizon. The sun beat down on their faces, but they did not falter. They were driven by a desire for freedom. They were determined to reach the promised land. They would face any challenge, overcome any obstacle. They would never give up on their dream. The journey was long, but the destination was worth it. They would build a new life in the land of milk and honey. They would worship God in freedom and peace. They would be a light to the nations. They would show the world what it means to be free. Moses continued to guide them, his faith unwavering. He was their leader, their protector, their friend. He would never abandon them, no matter what. Together, they would reach the promised land. Together, they would build a new nation. Together, they would fulfill God's promise. The journey had just begun, but their spirit was strong. They were ready for whatever lay ahead. They were the children of Israel, and they were free.